Coming up on Tech News today, Android O might actually stand for oops, thanks to a possibly unintended reveal. iOS 11 has a new safety feature that doubles as a cop button. Essential is getting reviewed by many, and we've got a little bit of a roundup. Is the retro gaming trend still alive and kicking? And we bring a Chuck E. Cheese expert on to talk about their animatronics and a whole lot more. All that more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1835, recorded Friday, August 18th, 2017. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Go to ring.com/TNT and get up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we tell you what you need to know about technology today. I'm Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howell. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about animatronic robots at some point. I'm just total guess.
Maybe we should just skip to the end, is what you're saying?
I'm teasing. I'm teasing ahead.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, it was just a guess. I don't know for sure that we're going to talk about animatronic robots.
I might just surprise you.
We might not even get there.
I finished Westworld.
Oh, well, there we go. See,
there.
We just talked about animatronic robots.
We did.
That's all you needed to know about those things.
And that's the news for the day.
All right, good. All right, thank you, Kevin. Top story. I know that, Megan, you've been losing sleep, waiting for the historical day that's coming up next Monday, right? It's a big day.
It is a big day.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is super excited for Monday.
The eclipse.
When that Oreo cookie moves across the sky and blocks the sun from hitting the earth. I could be getting my wires crossed. Yes, you're right. The solar eclipse happens on Monday, but another equally monumental thing happens. Google will officially release Android O, as well as reveal what the O stands for in Android O, at least for this time around. And Google has definitely been known to get trollish leading up to this. In retrospect, it's really not that big a deal, right? It's just the name of their operating system. We already know everything about the OS. It's going to be the official release date. But Google's done a really good job around marketing itself around, just making people wonder what the next dessert is going to be. And right now, all signs seem to be pointing to Oreo.
I disagree with you out there. I believe all signs are obviously pointing to octopus. Tasty's treat.
Let me tell you. Have you ever had an octopus? It is delicious.
I have. I am a pescatarian, as you might know, so I have had octopus.
But it's not really desserty or...
Well, if you dip it in honey,
I suppose so.
Treat.
That's an interesting treat. I'm sure that tastes delicious to someone. That doesn't sound very delicious to me. It's a little confusing here. So what happened earlier is Google posted a teaser video to Google+. Yes, Google+ still exists. And it was a teaser video for the upcoming announcement. As the internet will do, they downloaded the video, and when they looked at the file name, it said Oreo teaser. Oreo_teaser. And so everybody thought, oh, well, that's either Google messed up and it is in fact Oreo, or Google's doing that to troll us, which I think I fell into the category of this is a big troll because Google's really good at this. Like, they even hide code in their APKs for their own Android apps for people to find and discover later. So they're really good at hiding little nuggets here and there. And many times in the past, they'll tell you leading up to the announcement, they'll keep throwing hints at a certain thing. And then when the announcement happens, it's always something else. But what happened here that's a little different is they ended up deleting almost immediately the post that it was associated with. So any of the news outlets or blogs that were pointing to that post as like, hey, check it out, here's the preview video, now point to a, sorry, this page cannot be found. They created a new post with the same video, that file name, as you said, octopus. I don't think it's going to be octopus. But then they've since done it again, and now the new one says oatmeal cookie. So did they mess up, or are they just doubling down on their, or, was this the plan the whole time?
I believe the plan was for people to
talk about it.
People like journalists to say it was on Google Plus.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because people were, or maybe they were trying to count how many people were still on Google Plus, or just to get that Google Plus out there. Yes, yeah. Google Plus still exists. But the dev preview did have a secret octopus hiding in it, the preview 4, but the octopus head kind of looked like an Oreo.
Okay.
So that leads me to believe that it's going to be oatmeal cookie.
Yeah, I just don't know at this point. I've been pulling for orange. I thought orange would just be, orange. Like, it doesn't have to be Orangina. It doesn't have to be orange sherbet or anything like that.
That's so bad of you.
What? Well, no, I just, it's an Android O and an orange. Like, I could totally see the orange.
Right. Plus, none of us would get scurvy.
What?
You get scurvy when you don't have enough vitamin C.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought,
From an orange.
Okay. I thought that scurvy was
Have you never been a sailor?
No, never. I've been on boats. Does that count?
Not long enough, apparently, to get scurvy.
All right. Patrick Delahanty, who's filling in for Burke, well, actually, Burke's just not in today, says apples and oranges. Do you think they're going to double down? And no.
Get it? Apples and oranges. I get it. I would like to reduce scurvy for all.
Good. That's a noble gesture.
Do we have anything to say about the actual operating system? The only thing that I could peel out of this was that the new OS is going to have unread notification app badges.
Mm-hmm. I find those very useful, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I hate app badges.
Well, I don't like it when they have a number associated with it, like Twitter 35, and then it just makes me feel really guilty for not checking it because it says 35, or email, especially because I'm horrible at inbox 0, so it's always a big number. But this is just a little dot. They're basically notification dots. So all it does is if you have a dot next to Twitter, you know that there's something in there that you can check whenever you want to check it.
And you didn't have those before?
Didn't have those before, no.
Oh,
some OS, some manufacturers would put it into their own skin, but now it's, becoming part of Google's own thing.
I see. Well, the hashtag digital cleanse in me says that, because app badges on iOS are horrible. They always say the number.
Oh, I see.
So maybe iOS needs just the dot.
Yeah, I thought I was going to not like the badge, the little dot, the notification badge or dot or whatever it's called, and I've actually grown to really appreciate it.
Well, that's what the Apple Watch does. It's just a little red dot up there if I have notifications.
Great, and that's good enough. It doesn't stress you out. If it's that number, it changes the scenario entirely. That's only one of many features, but I'm sure we'll talk about it on Monday, and we can get into the features a little bit.
Or we'll talk about the relative merits of octopuses versus Oreos.
Okay, that can be our kicker.
iOS 11 Beta 6 released earlier this week, and it includes a feature that lets you disable Touch ID by tapping the lock button 5 times quickly. Beta testers are calling this feature a cop button because it forces you to enter a passcode, which prevents police from forcing you to open the phone with your fingerprint. It's not a bug, says Apple. It's a feature designed to let you access the SOS screen, which will let you dial 911 or another emergency service, as well as your emergency contacts. It also shows your medical ID, which you can customize to include allergy or other emergency information. So over the past few months, a lot of people have been recommending that you disable Touch ID when you cross the border or something like that. If you're protesting, maybe disable it so that no police or law enforcement can get access to your phone. Because of the current law, it's based on the case in Virginia in 2014, says users could be compelled to give up their fingerprints and not to give up their passcode, because the passcode is part of your brain, I don't know,
and you aren't required to give information that might It's Friday. Oh my God.
You can't give up information that would
incriminate you. There we go.
You.
That's the word I was looking for.
It's and iOS 11 is coming soon. With iOS when they don't have a tasty treat associated with it. The tasty treat is the iOS, but it's when they speed up the developer previews or when they speed up the public betas, then that means it's coming soon.
Yeah, I think this is a great move. Having the ability to ensure that you have a complete lock on your phone. I mean, it's just another step for protecting your data. I'm sure in a number of scenarios, not just being a what do they call it, a cop button. But it's nice to have that no matter what, to know that. The only thing that I can compare it to on Android is if you do like a couple of taps on the power button, it can launch an activity. It would be really nice to do something like this, but on many phones, Android phones, that just launches like a camera, which is also very nice. But I think I've wondered why you couldn't force this on Android, and obviously you still can't. So I think this is a great move on Apple's part. It definitely shows that Apple in many ways commits to protecting their users, giving Apple iOS users tools in order to protect themselves, and takes that seriously. That's good.
Yeah, but they're not. No one is. They're not selling it as that.
I know, but it's certainly very, very convenient compared to some of the news that we've talked about in the past year, related to this.
The other thing you can do, or you can do until you get iOS 11, is just spit on your thumb, and then wet hands. You can't. Wet hands don't work with. Your wet hands.
If someone compels you to do it, just spit on your thumb. I don't think that's going to work for very long, though.
Just keep spitting.
It's not a long-term fix. It's a short-term solution, Megan.
Okay.
After a whole lot of delays, Andy Rubin's Essential phone finally got its press showcase, and the floodgates have opened for reviews and first looks. If you were wondering whether this new phone company could go toe-to-toe with the greats, early reports are seemingly pretty positive, with some gray areas for sure. The Verge says it's the most appealing phone this year so far, with a titanium body and ceramic back that others were saying attracts fingerprints like nobody's business. Reviewers, by and large, say the camera cutout on the front actually works, excuse me, and doesn't detract from the beauty of the device. One of those things that you probably have to see in person in order to make that judgment, because we're just not used to seeing those cutouts as much, and on screen it's easy for your eye to just directly go there and wonder what it's going to look like in person. So we'll see that soon. Some third-party apps aren't working as well around that cutout, which I had wondered about, if that cutout was going to kind of wreak havoc with ways that the OS operates. Stuff that's installed on the phone and ships with the phone more or less worked around it, but there were some situations where it interfered. And a general sense of disappointment on the rear-facing camera. Low light performance, not that good. So that's kind of a bummer.
If you're only listening to this and you didn't get to see part of that Verge video that Dieter Bohn did, please go watch it, because he's wearing a suit and there's like flecks of gold and silver all around the phone, and he's just like, it's amazing, and it's such a geeky gadget reviewer's review.
It is a little over the top.
Because
I ain't gonna lie.
He says he loves it because it's its own thing. It has no logos on it. It's not an Android phone. It's not the new Samsung phone. It's not the Pixel. It's not the iPhone. It's its own thing. And I just wonder, like, who cares? Who cares besides geeky gadget reviewers? Are you gonna, pay $700 just because you want a phone without logos? That it doesn't, you can't even do VR with this. It has an LCD screen, not an AMOLED screen, so it won't even work for your VR.
Yeah, for Daydream, which has that requirement. You're right.
But that cutout thing, I think the iPhone's going to have the same thing. They're calling it a notch on the iPhone. We don't know for sure. What I also liked is it does have that bottom bezel, which Dieter calls the chin.
Yes, I've heard that before. The bottom bezel being the chin.
We are really anthropomorphizing whatever.
This is the episode of TNT. I'll get back to you in 5 minutes. Right? Yeah, anthropomorphizing.
Dang it! Now we can't say it. We can't say anything. But you know what I mean. I don't even think it's a word. We're not turning it into an animal. We're not turning an animal into a person. We're making our phones just like a human
People's
or part
faces.
of us.
Yeah,
like the chin.
I mean, going back on what you said though, there is a style function for phones. Like there are people that buy phones, yes, because they are phones and they are functional, but also because they look cool, or that's one of many features. That someone gets the Samsung Edge because it looks very different from anything else. And we're only at the beginning of seeing phones that are more or less bezel-less. In this case, 3 of the 4 bezels are pretty much non-existent. And anyone who's seen this phone and some of the other phones that are like that say that it's something to behold when you actually have it in your hand. It feels like the future of phones, but that only goes so far, you know, with some people. And I think it's early days for Essential. They're heavily backed from a financial perspective, so they're going to be around for a while. They don't have high anticipation that this phone necessarily is going to be a crazy, like sell millions and millions of units type of thing right out of the gate. Their plan is to move slow. And so, you know, of course, reviewers are going to get super nerdy about this, but I'm super intrigued. I'm very interested to get my hands on it because it's one thing to see it online. It's another thing to actually have it in your hands and be able to play around with it. So,
and Leo hasn't gotten his yet.
No, I think Leo made the now I want a beer. Leo made the decision that if it comes in before All About Android, I get to show it off on All About Android. If it comes in after, he gets to show it off on This Week in Google or Twit or whatever. So it's probably Leo's.
And I think a few days ago I said that I had heard that you could walk into a Sprint store today, but that's not true.
No, I don't think so.
You can, I think it was like it's September 28th or something. You could order it from the Sprint store either on September 28th or to get it September 28th or August 28th.
Yeah, I think it's the end of next week. It starts shipping from Sprint. Maybe you can go into the store and pick it up from there, but yeah.
I don't recommend anyone go into a Sprint store. It's a horrible experience.
Mm.
Remember when you had to wait a year or more after a movie came out in the theaters to watch it on TV?
I do remember that, yes.
I remember Star Wars, E.T., like, you know, waiting. And you had to watch it live, like whenever they decided to put it on. Couldn't TiVo it or anything. Ask your kids what TiVo is. Or
That's
ask
no
your
way to
parents what
live.
TiVo is.
It's no way to live.
And there were also commercials. It was hard. It was. How did we even live like that? I don't even know how we survived. Now the time between theatrical release and home viewing might soon be shortened to just a few weeks. Bloomberg reports that Warner Brothers and Universal Pictures could partner with Apple and Comcast to offer digital rentals just weeks after the movie's debut in theaters. They won't be cheap. They're talking about $50 for a movie. Studios and digital distributors seem close to a deal, but the theater chains obviously not that pleased about it. The grosses for the summer box office have come in. They've fallen 12% since this time last year.
Wow.
And theater execs, they argue that 50% of movies' profits come from the theatrical run, which makes sense because it's so expensive to bring your whole family. But yeah, I mean, this isn't something that I would do. I would not pay $50 to watch a movie in 2 weeks. I have more patience than that.
Well, the more I thought about this, the more it actually made a lot of sense to me because when you think about pay-per-view and you think about events like UFC or whatever, right? Like those are pretty expensive pay-per-view events, but you know, by and large, everybody knows like it's not one. I mean, in some cases, it's one person sitting down paying for it and watching it by themselves. It's usually a group of people, and they all come over to somebody's house, and they all pitch in a little bit, and they get the pay-per-view thing, and they all make a party out of it. If you're a family of 4, family of 5, what are you going to spend to go to the theater to watch it? You're going to spend $8 to $10 to $12 per ticket to sit down and buy their popcorn and pay their concessions and everything like that. So if you can get this 2 weeks after it's released in a movie theater, watch it in your own home theater, eat dinner, eat a box of pizza, put it on the table, and all of you get to watch it for less than what you'd spend having to like go down to the movie theater and see it. Like I can actually see that. I mean, I think that there's value for that, and I mean, I feel like the movie industry is in a similar situation right now as the music industry has been, which is that streaming and online distribution, all this stuff is really changing the economics of the movie theaters. You know, people aren't buying as many movies because you can just stream them very easily or, you know, rent them online or whatever the case. That economic model is shifting. There's value to this. I think absolutely some people would prefer to just drop $50 and serve up their family, you know, the movie instead of having to pay the extra fees of going to a theater.
Yeah, if we got your family and my family, that's 9 people. We could split the cost.
Right.
Make all our kids empty out their piggy banks to help us pay for the $50.
Yeah, you're going to help us pay for this movie. $3, kids, from each of you.
Now, when you talk about it that way, that's true. Because we do easily pay that much money when we go to the theater. But then I'm getting the experience of going to the theater.
Absolutely. And there's nothing, personally, I'm a huge fan of going to the movie theater. I worked in a movie theater for years. I love the experience. But sometimes I just don't have the time for it in my life. Yet I still want to see those movies. So maybe I'd make that decision. I know for myself that I have bought so many movies that have come out on streaming when you could only buy them and you couldn't rent them yet, because I know that my family, my kids would enjoy watching that now instead of waiting another month and a half. So I end up buying it, even though I probably would never have considered buying that actual movie. But I do it. I pay more because right now that the economics of that makes sense.
Yeah. And we really, as a family, only go to movies usually as a family. And we only go to big blockbuster movies. We only go to, superhero movies or big action movies. Anything else, like something like Moonlight or even like La La Land, we'll wait because it doesn't depend on a giant screen and sound and the experience of being in a theater. The smaller dramas, we'll just watch. And, to be honest, most of the really good dramas are on TV anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, there we go. So $50 movies coming soon. We'll see if that happens, actually. Coming up, we check in with Sam Machkovech with some gaming tidbits. But first, let's take a minute to thank Ring Video Doorbell. They're the sponsor of this episode. Ring's mission is to make neighborhoods safer. Today, over 1 million people use the amazing Ring Video Doorbell to help protect their homes. We use it at our front door. We love it. Ring knows home security begins at the front door, but it doesn't end there. That's why they're extending that same level of security to the rest of your home with the Ring Floodlight Cam. Just like Ring's Video Doorbell, Floodlight Cam is a motion-activated camera and floodlight that connects to your phone. With HD video and two-way audio, it lets you know the moment anyone steps in your property. You can see and speak to visitors, even set off an alarm right from your phone. How's that? With Ring's Floodlight Cam, when things go bump in the night, you'll immediately know what it is. And whether you're home or you happen to be away, the Ring Floodlight Cam lets you keep an eye on your home whenever you like. Ring Floodlight Cams offer the ultimate in-home security with high visibility floodlights and a powerful HD camera that puts security in your hands. Also, you can get this with the Ring of Security kit. All kits include a Ring Video Doorbell and your choice of either 1, 2, or 3 floodlight cams. Connect your Ring Video Doorbell with your favorite smart locks and hubs for added convenience, monitoring, and security. With Ring, you're always home. Save up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit when you go to ring.com/TNT. That's ring.com/TNT. And we thank Ring for their support of Tech News Today. It's time we revisit the hedgehog. Of course, I'm talking about Sonic and not our guest, Sam Machkovech from Ars Technica. Welcome, Sam.
Wait, should I go and get the blue dye and get it a little spikier? I can do that.
I half expected you to do that anyways, but maybe next week, maybe so.
I don't have a golden ring, but I do have one of these. The kids are into that, right?
Yeah.
The kids
got like 3 little rings.
The kids were into that.
A little late to the game there.
It's still cool. I'm still cool. I'm still relevant. I'm still hip.
Yeah.
So that's why I play games from the 90s, like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Exactly. So you were very positive about your time early on with the new Sonic Mania game. Now you have your review posted. Tell us what you think.
I have really enjoyed my time with Sonic Mania. I've been fortunate to try it out a few times at press events over the past, 6-8 months. And it's out, it's big, it's old school, it's satisfying. Sonic Mania is the first truly 16-bit throwback Sonic game since the Sega Genesis existed. And that is because the game is this interesting partnership between a design studio called Pagoda West, who made a lot of Sonic-like games, and a couple of programmers, Headcanon and Christian Whitehead are the names of these two in particular, who are really good at taking that old Sonic style and emulating it perfectly on new hardware. For whatever reason, Sega threw out all of the beautiful, perfectly styled mechanical code that makes all of the jumps, all of the dashes, all of the little rushes feel like an old Sonic game. So Sonic Mania takes these two things that feel and good design that makes it feel like an old game and turned it into this 12-zone, 24-level plus perhaps a little bit more, explosion of Sega Genesis style action. I actually think of it more as somewhere between Sega Genesis and Sega Saturn in terms of how it runs, because it has, if you want to be a dork about it, it's got more color depth and more other trickery going on, which makes it a little bit bigger than 16-bit. But it looks 16-bit and it feels 16-bit, and it's deep. It's fun. And what I love about these Sonic games, the reason that I fall for them, and I'm a Mario guy, there's a bunch of Mario stuff behind me. But what I really like about Sonic is that there's a speed to it in the first go of just this exhilaration of the ability to just blast. But there's also all these little extra paths that you can dig out and find in order to make your runs faster. And that's what's really going on, is you've got this mix of exploration and mastery and speed that I think really does something in terms of playing with that old school platforming mind that nobody else ever came close to nailing.
Now, the levels themselves, I mean, some of these are throwback. Are they all throwback to old levels, or have they created new ones? And how do they kind of introduce new elements into those old experiences?
Yeah, there's a mix. They've got the very first level is the Green Hill Zone. And if you've ever played a Sonic the Hedgehog game, you've probably seen it, because Sega loves to just destroy this thing by continuing to remix it and remake it over and over. It's very blue and green, and they're usually very boring. But they almost instantly remix it and turn it around by just adding some very simple tweaks, some little ways of moving around, these zip line patterns where you grab onto a little zip line and go boosh down these little slopes. It doesn't sound like very much, but it's this nice sense of, oh, okay, we're paying homage and we're adding a couple of new things. So all in all, 2/3 of the game is remixes of old levels from Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, which was essentially 4, but not really, and Sonic CD. So these are all Genesis era levels, nothing from any of the other games. And then there's 4 brand new zones, which really do pay homage to the Sonic Spinball era of bouncing around these little flipper pinball style things and other bouncy pads and stuff like that. So the new stuff feels like it could have been ripped from an old level, and the old stuff feels like what the old levels should have been. They're just smarter, they're cooler, they're crazier, they're longer, and they're more intense. And I dig all of those levels.
So philosophically speaking, what makes someone a Mario person versus a Sonic person?
Well, philosophically, that's usually whichever system your parents bought you in 1989. It really, like I'd said, it really does boil down to how you like to run around. I think Sonic games are slower, and they also introduce a lot of single level gimmicks. There's like a certain type of enemy in a Mario level. Yoshi's Island in particular will have this thing where there will be sort of a certain type of enemy or certain kind of move that you just do in one level and then it's gone. And Sonic is a lot more of the control is consistent and it's always just very fast. And you'll have these other little things that come and go, but it's not as much of this thing where it's a level by level, oh, wow, great puzzle, now you're out. It tends to be more of the same. So I think Mario games tend to be more diverse, but Sonic games tend to be more intense.
Yeah, Sonic has a little bit more of that Twitch quality to it in the gameplay, whereas Mario, it's just a slower pace for sure. When I've introduced my 7-year-old to both of the games, Mario bored her, but Sonic, she always goes back to Sonic. So, which makes me proud. That was my first of the 16-bit era games that I got really into.
Do you go up to her and say Genesis does what Nintendo don't? Do you try to get that mantra in her head?
No, but you're making me realize I probably should. I need to educate her a little bit more on video game history.
A tattoo is always a good start.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll say Sam told me it was a good idea. Late last week, No Man's Sky got an update, which makes me wonder, can an update make those who expected more out of that game happy? How was this update?
Yeah, this is a pretty big update. And when I say big, part of it is that none of these updates, and they've had a few where they've had, giant file updates with features and extra things. There was a lot of crafting and farming that was added a while back. And this one was called Atlas Rise. No, not the Metallica song. Sorry. And it's about there's a bunch of different stuff going on. One of them is that you can there's more plot going on, that they've added a bunch more story. They've also completely updated the procedural planet generation. And anyone who's heard about No Man's Sky would tell you that the best part of it was that it just generated planets automatically. Just used some math formulas, and it made these crazy terrain things appear out of nowhere. But you didn't play it very long before running into the same thing over and over. So that has all become a lot more diverse. There's quite a bit of little stuff going on that's tweaks to some of the systems that were introduced before, because you can drive cars now, and that wasn't the case when the game originally came out, that you've got these big cars that let you zoom across these giant planets a lot faster. Now the planes you pilot have more moves when they're flying around in space. You can have actual quote-unquote dogfights, which weren't really the case in the beginning. That was one of my biggest letdowns with the original, that you never really felt like a Star Wars pilot once you shot a ship into space and went from planet to planet. You can fly the planets really low and engage in low terrain combat, which is a thing that I just thought you'd be able to do. I thought you'd be able to just take these planes or jets and just fly them right over the edge of the surface and shoot at stuff. Basically, they're getting a lot closer to that feeling of being a 12-year-old boy or girl and shouting, "I just want to do all this space stuff." And they're like, "All right, we're finally letting you do all these random weird things." So in that sense, the wish list style of, I want to be able to do this little cute thing and that little cute thing, more of that is in the game. My biggest question, and it still hasn't been answered because I haven't really dug into this update because there are 5,000 video games to play, is that I don't know that the game will ever truly be saved. They needed to get a game out a year ago, give or take. And what they got out was not finished. It didn't have all the stuff in it that made it a truly satisfying loop to get into and play. It had cool tech, it had cool ideas, but it wasn't a complete game. And it feels like they would have been better off wiping and starting over, but they had to save face. They made a ton of money and made a lot of people angry, which is an interesting combination to get into, because they sold a bunch of copies and had the cash. And instead of saying, screw it, we're going to completely move on to something else, they said, okay, people really wanted to have these sci-fi dreams fulfilled. Let's go ahead and try. And, kudos to them for giving it a shot.
So what about the joint exploration? Is that real multiplayer?
We talking about
No, I'm not talking about that.
Okay. No, joint exploration was announced and sort of vague, and we've come to learn as of right now in the game, as opposed to Washington State, that joint exploration means little orbs will appear if multiple people are on the same planet at the same time. And that means you'll be able to see and possibly hear other people in real life people while they're floating around. They'll just appear as little orbs as you're walking or flying around. It'll map the fact that you guys are all in simultaneous places, but you're not, for example, fighting the same creature or collecting the same resource. It's more that you and a friend can essentially get the same coordinates down. And by the way, there's a whole new slew of portals. I didn't even mention the portals that let you warp from planet to planet, which fits into some of the plot stuff. It's now a little bit easier to meet other people, but in terms of real, true interaction with them, that's not the case. It's more like you've just turned on Skype and then you see a little shimmer on the planet. Like that's what it is for now. And they may be building more, and they're keeping their lips sealed because they just revealed so much stuff that I still haven't even gotten to grips with all of the stuff that was added in Atlas Rises, which is, not a bad place for them to be.
Now, finally, you're hard at work, and I'm sure that means that you're having your own joint exploration of the new game, Nidhogg 2. I should add that hard work and a joint exploration in this case really means that you're playing the game endlessly. I have to imagine anyways. Tell us a little bit about it.
You make it sound like I am a 12-year-old, well, maybe not 12, but no, there is no psychoactive drug use when I play Nidhogg 2 because the game is a trip all on its own. Nidhogg 2 is a follow-up to a game that didn't necessarily rack up sales or get super huge, but a lot of critics really liked it because it introduced this idea of two-button combat, where you have a joystick, a jump button, and a stab button. And you were a fencer, the other person was a fencer, and you had to essentially kill and run. Each of you had to get to the opposite end of a screen. It was sort of boiled down this idea of quick video game combat in a world where there are too many 50 zillion buttons, 50 zillion combo kind of fighting games. Nidhogg 2 continues this tradition, but now doesn't look like the original, which was very 4-bit Atari Commodore style. This one is going sort of 16, 32-bit, and it looks weird. And if you just see a screenshot or if you just see a quick video where you're not playing it, it can look very off-putting. I liken it. I think a lot of critics have mentioned Ren and Stimpy. I think about Liquid Television, Aeon Flux, even an anime called Paprika, where there's just a lot of melting and weirdness and bulbousness to the style of just sort of Technicolor boogers, I think might be a good way of putting it, or deformed Homer Simpsons. There's just a lot of, like, if you're not watching the video version of this, look up a trailer of it and you may not be charmed immediately. But I just want to assure anyone who likes the idea of a quick fight with my buddy kind of video game that this should be right at the top of your list. It is incredible, just the little things that they've tweaked from the first one. They've added more weapons, they've added more moves, they've added more levels. And that all kind of, it sounds like a bullet point list that's sort of meaningless if you don't get in there and feel all the little ways these little systems fit together to let you spill a ton of super bright Technicolor pixel blood. I love it. I love Nidhogg 2. It's going to be in my year-end top 20 list. It's going to be a crazy list this year, but I love this game. The only problem is terrible online modes, terrible single-player modes. If you don't have anybody who can come to your house, put that Forever Alone hashtag on your Nidhogg 2 session. You won't have as good of a time.
I like the art style personally. I like how out there it is. So, I mean, I feel like we're seeing a lot, and this has been a trend for a while now, a lot of very retro kind of throwback title, new titles, new series, all that kind of stuff, but built around kind of the retro look and feel. Is that a trend that's growing tired at this point? What are your thoughts on the general trend, as it were?
There was a few years ago where people were really complaining about the indie games that were coming out that were lower resolution, more pixely, more old school looking. But Nidhogg 2 and Sonic Mania both show up and essentially say, if your art direction is on point and if you can do stuff that's really nicely built, that is really, you can see in both of these games how much detail and fan service is going on. I mean, all of the crazy background crap in all of Nidhogg 2's levels, all of the fan service from tons of old Sonic games inside of Sonic Mania, both speak to me about that sense that it doesn't really matter the resolution if what you're trying to do is get a person into a game and both entertain them visually, but keep them focused on the action. I really like that about Nidhogg 2. I think it's actually better than Sonic Mania in that regard, that there's a lot of pixely stuff going on, but they use some really cool lighting and color tricks. There's these crepuscular rays. I love that phrase. Look it up. That pop behind you in certain parts of Nidhogg 2. And what this does is it sort of makes a silhouette out of your bizarre looking character. So while there's a bunch of color and weird stuff going on, you are looking right at the good stuff and enjoying how it looks. The synesthesia of it is just, for me, I really enjoy what is being pulled off. And I do think because there's been a lot of that retro burnout feeling of people saying, oh, I've seen these little low-res pixely things, that people are stepping up their game. They're hiring art directors and they're focusing on art where it counts.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Sam Machkovech from Ars Technica, we really appreciate it each and every Friday that you join us, that you do so. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Happy to join, and you guys have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Take care. And Technicolor boogers, I believe you said at one point. So we're going to remember that one.
And crepuscular rays.
Just put it all together on my autobiography title right there.
Yes.
Crepuscular booger rays. Boom. Bestseller.
Boom. Perfect.
You guys.
All right, later.
Anthropomorphic.
There we go. We got there. It only took 15 minutes.
On it. And I still think it was the wrong word for what I was trying to say. Thanks to Paul, who responded to our story yesterday about the robot farmer. And he sent us this video of a robot cowboy.
I'm a robot cowboy.
It's Swagbot, the world's first robot cowboy. That last cow was like, what?
It's a robot, herder, basically.
That's my
That's
favorite.
awesome.
If you're watching the video, on the downside, it cannot provide companionship as other cowboys can provide to each other.
I'm pretty sure that robots just in general can't really provide companionship. But what do I know?
Oh, come on. Of course, that's going to be, when we are 95 years old, who do you think's going to be hanging out with us?
Nope.
The bots.
Nope. Nope. TNT's fan of the day is Gringo Loco on Twitter, who's shared this picture saying 2800 by 1200 pixels, 12 by 25 foot is how I watch TNT. 12 feet by 25 feet. I think we might have a new winner for biggest screen showing TNT. I don't know. We haven't been keeping track, but this seems like the biggest screen ever.
He didn't even say like where he was or what he was doing or whether this, I'm going to say that's too big.
No, it's not big enough. I want bigger. I want drive-in movie theater. Someone put TNT up on a drive-in movie theater. That's all we need. All right. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. If you show us how you watch or listen to TNT.
Okay, so we have highest up, biggest. What? Maybe next time we need smallest. Who can show us the smallest?
Oh, the smallest screen ever?
Yeah.
That would be good. I don't know how you capture that because it's so small, but do that.
And we have had under the water. I don't know if we've had underground. Have we had underground?
If we had in molten lava, that would be a good one. We're just giving you, we're spitballing.
Yeah,
Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Be safe. Post it on Instagram, Google Plus, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag #HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it.
In the war between robots and humans, score one for the humans. Chuck E. Cheese says they're planning to get rid of their creepy animatronic robot house band and replace it with real humans. Not a band, but just people, real humans dressed up as animals. CEC Entertainment Chief Executive Tom Leverton told CBS that kids actually prefer people in animal costumes to singing robo-animals. Kids today, they have no idea. This was the stuff of my nightmares growing up.
Yeah.
I have not been to a Chuck E. Cheese. And if anyone knows where I can buy one of these, now that they're getting rid of them, I would really like to have one.
It was the stuff of your nightmares, so you'd like one?
Yes. But thankfully, we do have a Chuck E. Cheese expert with us in the studio, Mr. Jason Howell.
Okay. Hold on. Yeah, that's me. Chuck E. Cheese expert. What do you want to know?
So you regularly take your children to Chuck E. Cheese?
I don't regularly take my children to Chuck E. Cheese. Correction. We have had to go there a couple of times.
Okay. And you say that the local Chuck E. Cheese no longer even has these.
Yeah, the one nearest to here got rid of the animatronics a couple of years ago. In their place, it's a big wall with a really big screen and a very standard order of songs and, hey, are you ready? Because in 10 minutes, Chuck E. Cheese is going to come out and sing to you. I can't hear you. And then long, awkward pauses and music and canned, applause and everything. It's really depressing. If you ever went to Chuck E. Cheese or Showbiz Pizza back in the day and you saw the animatronic things, yes, I was a kid at the time, but there was a crazy capture your imagination sort of thing about it. However, that I don't get out of a really huge screen with people singing and dancing. Yes, someone comes out dressed up as Chuck E. Cheese and they do the handshaking and all of the motions without ever saying a word, and all the kids want to hug Chuck E. Cheese and everything like that. It's not the same to me. That's not the same to me. But hey, if it makes the kids happy, then whatever.
I grew up at Chuck E. Cheese, also Showbiz Pizza. Oh, it's too bad you're putting your collar back down. I really was having a hard time taking you seriously with the collar up. But I also grew up going to Pipe Organ Pizza. Which,
never heard of it.
If anyone, I think it might have been in Dallas. I don't know. I moved around a lot when I was young, so it could have been New York. But if anyone remembers Pipe Organ Pizza, please email me at Megan@twit.tv or post on Twitter at Megan Maroney, because that was where we went often.
The Pipe Organ Stop Pizza? No.
Where was it? Is it Dallas? It might have just been one place. It might not have even been a chain.
That's in Las Vegas.
But it did have a really big pipe organ.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I don't recommend going to Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, there's some weird things about Chuck E. Cheese, which we had a long discussion about. They don't let you in if you don't bring a child.
That's great.
Right. Yeah.
It's all about, so they don't let you in if you don't bring a child. It's kind of like there are a lot of playgrounds that do that too, right? Like you can't be on the playground unless you are accompanied by a kid, which sounds weird, but they do that to protect the children. Also, when you go in, they give you an invisible ink code that they stamp onto your skin that matches the code that they stamp onto your kid's skin. That way, if the kid is ever leaving, they check the code of the adult that they're leaving with and make sure that they match. And if they don't match, they don't let them leave. So, they're very smart. In the few times that I've gone, I've been really impressed with that aspect. They're really smart at realizing who their target audience is and protecting the kids that are there. But as far as this experience is concerned, I think I've been there 3 times, and the kids are they're happy to be there. Like, they don't care that it's just a Chuck E. Cheese, dancing mouse or whatever, as opposed to big animatronic things. I'm sure this saves Chuck E. Cheese a lot of headache, because those animatronic things are not inexpensive and not without a lot of issues, breaking down, all that stuff.
So do you have to have one child per adult?
I don't know if it's necessarily a ratio of or anything like that. In my experience, like I've gone with my wife and our kids, and I've gone just myself and our kids.
But like, could I go? Like, what if I just stood outside? I really wanted to go to Chuck E. Cheese. Could I stand outside and be like, can I go with you and your kids?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I guess I don't know enough about Chuck E. Cheese. I thought I was the Chuck E. Cheese expert, but I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. I think we can all say we spend too much time talking about Chuck E. Cheese. And it's not Chuck E. Cheese. That's all. It's
Chuck E. Cheese.
What does the E stand for?
I don't know.
Like I said, we've talked too much already about Chuck E. Cheese.
I'm done with this discussion. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW, and find us on Twitter at TechNewsTodayTV.
Subscribe to our show, twit.tv/TNT, and do not forget to join me on the 10-week digital cleanse on the new screensavers. So go ahead and subscribe to the screensavers, and you'll feel like Jason does. Hashtag digital cleanse. And if you remember pipe organ pizza, or you know where I can buy a giant animatronic animal, please tweet that at me, at Megan Maroney.
Lots of guesses on the E. Some say entertainment. Some say E. coli. Really, it could be either. It could also be either, actually. I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Kevin, also editor, I believe, today. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks to Patrick for helping out in the studio, and occasional Patrick chats. We got one of those today. And thanks to you, whoever you are, for talking tech with us today. We'll see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.